Oh, so Microsoft held their spring event and they introduced the brand new laptop? Okay, that's not a Surface Pro 5. I was hoping for a Surface Pro 5, but we get a laptop, so that's cool. It's called the Surface Laptop, and it actually looks pretty nice. This new laptop comes with a touchscreen. It also works with the Surface Pen, but it doesn't come with the Surface Pen, at least not according to Microsoft's website. I haven't found any hardcore details on that, but I'm assuming that it doesn't come with a pen, but you can get one and you can draw on it. I also love that with this new laptop, they're still pushing design forward. First of all, I heard the hinge is great, that you could actually open it with one hand. Even my MacBook or most laptops that you use, when you go to open it with one hand, it like pushes back and slides across the desk, so you kind of have to hold it with one hand, prop it open. So the fact that they got the hinge to work so well proves that Microsoft truly is one of the greatest hinge companies in the world. So let's jump to the details. Should you draw on it? No, probably not. I would say you're best off to stick with the Surface products that are already out there. I personally like the Surface Pro, as anybody who watches this channel can tell you. I'm a fan of it, mostly because of the hinge. I can put it at any angle that I want. I like the fact that I can fold the keyboard over. Some people really like the Surface Book because the keyboard is, you just detach the whole thing and you just use the tablet. You know, it comes down to personal preference and what you like. And overall, I don't think the clamshell design of a traditional laptop isn't the best, at least in my opinion, for drawing. Just getting it in the right position can be a little odd. I really did think that we were going to see a Surface Pro 5 this spring. Maybe we still will. At this point, it's really hard to tell. Maybe we'll see it over the summer. I know that like the late summer, early fall is a big laptop buying time because people are going back to school. Obviously the holidays, I would be shocked if we didn't see something new, the Surface Pro 5, by the holidays. But this spring, I doubt they're just going to have another event in the next couple weeks. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll surprise us. The other big thing that's coming out of this event is Windows S. Now, Windows S is basically a lockdown version of Windows 10. By lockdown, I mean that it can only run apps that come in the Windows Store, and also there's a lot of other elements that we're not sure all of them, but some of the things that you can't change. For example, you can't change the default browser and the default search engine and things like that. And from what I'm reading, most of these changes were designed to create a more stable version of Windows, maybe a lighter version of Windows, and a version of Windows that can compete directly with Chromebooks. And this is where I'm a little bit confused, because when I think about Chromebooks, and I think, why do people buy Chromebooks as opposed to a Windows laptop? And it comes down to price, and probably only price. A Chromebook sells for usually under $300. It's actually kind of hard to find one over $300. Most sell for less than $200. These things are dirt cheap. The new Surface laptop is not dirt cheap. It is $1,000, and it is a pretty powerful laptop. It's running an i5. It's got a good amount of RAM. I think there's 4 gigs in there. And plus, it can run anything in the Windows Store, and there are some pretty powerful applications in the Windows Store. You take a look at something like Sketchable, which is a nice little drawing app. That's in the Windows Store, and that is not a light running application. That is a pretty hardcore drawing application. I'm not faulting Microsoft for charging that much for a laptop. I think the Surface brand tends to be their high-end brand. They're trying to make it like a computer luxury brand like Apple, and so charging that much for it and putting the Surface name on it actually makes a lot of sense. But I just think that the audience that usually buys Chromebooks aren't going to spring for a laptop like this. Now, Microsoft is working with HP and Acer to produce cheaper ones that will sell for about $300, so that's more in the price range, even though it's at the high end of what most Chromebooks cost. So maybe they are angling with some of their vendors to get that price down and kind of compete directly with Chromebooks. And if you get a Surface laptop and you don't like Windows S, you can pay $50 and you could upgrade to full Windows 10, which means most of the laptops that have that kind of deal need to be strong enough to run Windows 10. This is where I get a little bit confused and where I think this strategy is probably going to fail for Microsoft, and that is that they're trying to compete against Chromebooks by becoming Chromebooks, but I think the strength of Windows, and when Windows does well, it's because they let Windows be Windows. They let Windows be versatile. They let Windows be powerful. They let Windows be completely customizable. And by pulling all of that out of there, I think they're throwing away one of their greatest strengths. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. Didn't Microsoft try this just a couple years ago with something called Windows RT? No, they didn't. That's your imagination, and that never happened. What's that? It did? Okay, I guess it did happen, and it didn't work out too well. And I think this is probably going to cause some confusion with consumers as well. I can see my parents going out to get a new laptop and buying something that runs Windows S and thinking Windows is Windows, right? It always has been. And I would think that anybody who uses Windows S and gets an email with attachments that they can't open, or gets a GoToMeeting invite and they can't actually join the meeting, or just generally wants to run a game or, you know, use a different browser, they're probably going to get frustrated and want to upgrade to the full Windows 10 experience anyway. Alright, so just for the fun of it, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and let me take the side of Windows S and what it might be good at and where it might succeed. So first, the Windows Store has come a very long way over the last couple years. When Windows RT came out, the Windows Store was a fairly new thing. A lot of developers have jumped onto the Windows Store idea, so there's so much more there, and you can do so much more now with the apps you find in the Windows Store than you could before. In fact, I tell most new Windows users that if they're looking to do something, go to the Windows Store first, because you know that stuff tends to be updated a little more frequently, or has been more updated more recently, has been streamlined for newer OSs. And so overall, I think that could work in its favor. The other thing that I should point out is that the App Store that Apple has, they haven't really been cultivating that, and it's slowly been dying out. A lot of people have been pulling out of the Mac App Store, not the iOS App Store, the Mac App Store. And so I think Microsoft has done the opposite. They've done a good job of cultivating their App Store, and so that could work in their favor. And I think having Windows S running on numerous machines, and if it takes off in some way, it might be something that it would help encourage other developers who are kind of on the fence about the Microsoft Store to jump in full speed ahead. And I think over time, that could be really beneficial to Microsoft. Mostly because there's a lot of software out there with viruses and things like that. There's malware, but if you get all of your apps through the Microsoft Store, Microsoft has some control over what goes in there, and they can make sure there's nothing malicious in there. That would be huge for Windows in the long term. And if most of the apps that you need in your everyday life are in the Windows App Store, I think that makes Windows in general, Windows S or Windows 10, a better operating system. So I really don't have any plans on reviewing this new laptop. If that changes, I'll let you know. I don't think it's a great art machine, even though it is a nice little laptop. So that's all I've got for this week. If you have any comments or questions, or if there's any kind of analysis that you think I missed, sometimes I get some great comments down below on that sort of thing. Really helps me kind of narrow my focus and figure out kind of what I was thinking in the first place. Let me know down in the comments. That's all I've got. I'll talk to you guys later.